But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a broom tree. And he prayed that he might die and said, "It is enough. Now, Lord, take my life, for I am no better than my fathers." Then as he lay and slept under a broom tree, suddenly an angel touched him and said to him, "Arise and eat." Then he looked, and there by his head was a cake baked on coals and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and lay down. And the angel of the Lord came back the second time and touched him and said, "Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for you." So he arose and ate and drank, and he went in the strength of that food 40 days and 40 nights, as far as Horeb, the mountain of God.
I found out that being in your feelings is a dangerous thing. It's so dangerous, you can ask the people that are doing In My Feelings challenge when they jump out the car and almost get hit dancing. It's dangerous for them. It's even going viral. I don't need this jacket. I feel like getting comfortable. It's a challenge that they will hop out the car and dance to a Drake song, In My Feelings. See, emotions are the most complicated part of a human being. See, emotions are confusing. I've learned to never make a decision based off my emotions. Because emotions change like the wind. I've also learned that emotions are extremely unstable. So when Christ wants us to make a decision to follow him, he doesn't want an emotional decision. He doesn't want you on the altar crying and screaming just to make an emotional decision to follow him. Because he said, I want you to make a decision with your mind and with your heart. Because the emotions aren't consistent. Meaning, whenever you feel a certain way, that's where your decisions will go. And I also found out that a man is made up of three distinct parts: spirit, pneuma; soul, psyche; and body, soma. These are Greek words that represent the three distinct parts of a man. But within the soul, if you look closely up there, it's three parts within the soul the Greeks talked about. And it was your will, your mind, and emotions. Your mind makes up the decisions, your will is the desire, and your emotions is how you feel. And God is trying to get to the heart to get to what? Your actions. So Christ came to save your soul. You taking notes, I highly suggest to write down the first three things I said before. Because those are Greek words you probably want to know about. So saying it again, just in case you missed it, spirit, numerology is the study of the Holy Spirit. Soul, your psyche, that's the thinking, the decision part of the man. And third is the body, the soul. Because remember, God came to save what? Your soul, to make sure your body that what? Ends up dying and your spirit won't go where? Hell. And the Spirit, the Holy Spirit came to what? Be that comforter. Then I find out those three parts is making up your decision is your will, your mind, and your emotions. Your desire is your will. If I want to do this, I will what? Do it. If I made up in my mind to do it, I will what? Do it. Come on, somebody. But your emotions will cause you to do some things that you didn't plan to do. Oh my God. So God is trying to get to the heart, and he's looking at these three things and said, man, I don't know which one's the worst. And he said, and I found out the worst thing is your emotions, because the definition of emotion is a strong feeling deriving from one's circumstance, mood, or relationship with others. So that right there lets me know your emotions is based off the external. That means it's based on what's going on the here and now. Meaning one day you'll be one way, the next you'll be what? Another. And God is looking for us to be consistent. So God gives us remedies for our mind and our will. But he says there's something wrong with the emotions. Little context. We have to find out that Elijah has literally in chapter 18 just beat 450 prophets of Baal. I mean, he showed up, God showed up and showed out for him. He was on the top of a mount, didn't have to scream, didn't have to yell, just simply prayed and God showed up. I mean, these 450 prophets were screaming, cutting themselves all day and night just to see who God would answer a prayer. Elijah said, fill this up. 3 times, fill it. He filled the sacrifice up with water and said, watch my God consume it.
All right.
With just a prayer, God came and consumed the whole thing with fire.
Right.
The people got excited and said, you know what? We're going to listen to you. And he said, you know what? Slew these 450.
All right.
Kill these 450 prophets because guess what? The prophets of God have been being killed by Jezebel.
Wow.
So they killed the 450. So some would say that is an emotional high. Has anyone seen God show up in your life at a point where all you can do is just give God the praise?
Yes, sir.
I mean, he showed up without you tripping or doing anything special. You just said, God, I trust you.
That's right.
And since he did that, you are way up here thinking emotionally, externally, everything is great. God just paid my bills. He just got me a new house. He just got me a new car. He just gave me my mate. He just gave me my kid. He's changing things around for me right now. I'm on the emotional high.
All right now.
Oh.
Right.
But one thing about emotional high, what comes up must what?
Come down.
Oh.
Right.
Oh, yes.
So with so many people basing the way they treat God on emotional highs.
My
Come on now. Preach the word anyway.
I got to a point where everything was great until Jezebel heard what happened. And preachers, as we should know, Jezebel did what? Jezebel said, if I don't kill you by this time tomorrow, may the gods do worse to me. And not only did she say that, she made sure he got the message. And when he got the message, the Bible tells us he immediately what? Ran.
Yes.
And what bothers me the most about that is, how can you go to faith to fear so quick? And I'm finding out that many of us, our faith is based on the external. On what God can do for us right now on the outside. And this thing called fear was the emotion that gripped him. It let me know that he had so much faith in God until Jezebel came up. So when he started to run from Jezebel, he wasn't running towards God.
All right now.
And fear, the definition of fear, is an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain or threat. And the biggest word that stuck out to me is belief. So I'm finding out if you're not careful, you have more faith in what someone would do to you than what God can do for you.
That's right.
All right, blessings.
It's quiet in here today. Some of us have more faith in what will go wrong than how God can make things right in our life.
Right now.
Fear is actually a form of faith. See, emotions will cause you to put your faith in the wrong hands. Love will cause you, if you're loving the wrong person, to put faith in that person's hand when God told you not to. Come on, that love for that job will cause you to put faith in that job when that job don't really care about you. Fear will cause you to be so afraid that you won't move forward because you got more faith in that fear than what God told you to do. You have more fear of man than faith of God. And the problem with the church today, you too emotional. You in your feelings. You too concerned about the way you feel. The emotion to want to be happy will cause you to do some stupid things because you just want to be happy. people fornicated because they just wanted to be happy.
That's right.
A lot of people got drunk just because they wanted to be happy.
Right.
Some people got high just because they wanted to be happy. Oh, that's just the emotion.
Yeah.
You allowing your emotions to control you.
Amen.
To control your mind, your will, your heart, and your actions. Oh, this is scary. Oh, this is scary. I'm finding out the church is being hindered by their emotions. People are looking for emotional highs because it makes them feel special inside. See, emotions are temporary, but Christ is looking for some everlasting. Every single emotion that you feel will not last. Happiness won't last. Anger won't last. Fear won't last. Sadness won't last. But we get stuck in our feelings so much, we feel like this thing is going to be forever. And the only thing that is forever is Christ and His Word.
Amen.
Oh my God, my God.
Eternal God.
Bless Jesus. Bless your word. Bless you.
We pick up the story back in verse 4, and we find out in verse 4 that not only that he went to Bathsheba, which was the farthest place in the south, he left his servant and literally walked another day journey into the wilderness.
Yeah.
And here's what I found out. Many of us get in our feelings and we just want to be what? All alone.
My God.
See, when adversity happens, it causes you to get in your feelings and cause you to disconnect from people, places, and things, and God.
Yeah.
Many of us today are sitting in the church all in our feelings because something went wrong. And we're neglecting people, places, things, and most importantly, God, because we are emotionally tied up into something else.
My God.
I found out emotions will cause you to want to separate to a point where you say, well, I know this is my husband or wife, but I don't feel too happy with them. I'm not too happy with my job, so I'm going to quit. And you start making irrational decisions based on how you feel right now. And the enemy knows that he works on the external. He can't do nothing internal. But he said, I can mess up your external to cause you to feel a certain way to make a stupid decision. He starts working on your friends, your families, and you start saying, nobody loves me. Nobody cares, and they mistreat me, and I shouldn't be here, and I'm ready to leave, and I'm tired. And you're making the decision because you feel unhappy. And the enemy knows that, so the enemy said, I got to attack everything around you to get you to make a decision outside of the will of God.
That's right.
And so many of us are sitting all alone in our feelings, making bad decisions because the way we feel. It's not about your feelings. It's not about if you're happy. It's not about if you're sad. It's about if you got joy, you should be all right.
Amen.
If you got peace, you should be all right. But the problem is we discount peace and joy and say, well, I'd rather be happy than have joy. Come on, somebody. Because joy ain't based on what's happening outside. Joy is based on what's happening inside. I got the Holy Spirit in me, so I find joy within me. I ain't worried if somebody tell me how good I look, because I got the joy in me. I'm not caring if my husband acting up, because I got the joy in me. I don't care if the kids are acting up, I got the joy in me. I don't care if my coworkers trying to get on my nerves, I got some joy in me. Oh, but I hope there's somebody in the house that really recognize it ain't about how you feel, it's about how God's done for you inside of you.
That's right.
Because when he saves your soul, he saves your emotions too.
Yeah.
The problem is some of us don't understand our soul. And we have to understand our soul has to deal with these emotions.
That's right.
And I find out when he was all alone, just like many of us, we are alone with our mind, our decision making, our will,
All right.
and our emotions. But if you are saved, you also got Christ in the mix.
Yeah.
And sometimes the only time that Christ can pull you away from people is to cause you to get in your feelings.
All right.
You're not hearing me.
Okay.
Everything that happens to you externally, God already approved it.
All right. Yeah.
And he knew the way you would react to that external issue. And he said, if I can get them in their feelings, maybe they'll talk to me.
All right.
Yeah.
But so many of us get on our feelings and don't want to even talk to God. And you don't realize while you're in your feelings all along, the enemy is working on your mind. And soon he will work in your will. And soon he will work in your heart. Then cause you to do some actions you was never meant to do. And the problem is we don't ever take a time out and pause and say, God, if this is the emotion you want me to feel, why?
All right.
Yes, talk about it.
Yeah.
But instead you want to be on an island all by yourself.
Yes, sir.
Nothing can be fixed by yourself in your feelings. In your feelings will really cause you to say, I don't care about nobody else. I only care about how I feel.
Amen.
And you got to get to a point, once you get saved, it's no longer about me, elder. It's about who? God. And he wants me to go through this because he wants me to get something from it.
Right.
He's trying to have me to grow.
Yeah.
But the problem with so many of us, we'd rather stay in our feelings, dwelling in our problems, instead of letting God move in our pool.
All right.
All right.
That's right.
Tight words, right?
Oh my God, my God.
Right. Yeah.
Then I found out he was in the middle of nowhere, sitting under a broom tree,
Yeah.
a juniper tree.
All right now.
And the picture should come up. Let you see what it looks like. Come on now, work with me. And this tree here, as you can see, it's in the middle of the desert by itself.
Yes.
So when the Bible said he went to the wilderness, we ain't talking about no forest. He went to the desert by himself.
Come on now.
So much so in this dry area, he didn't bring no food, nor water. When you get in your emotions, you don't plan for anything.
All right.
When you get in your feelings, you ain't planning for anything. You ain't planning for no problems. You ain't planning for nothing. You ain't thinking. And the problem is so many of us are making these decisions without thinking or consulting God.
All right.
Amen.
So he's in the middle of a dry desert all by himself.
Come on now.
Preach it.
With no food, no water, no money, no nothing, sitting under this little tree with a little bit of shade. Has anybody ever been in a dry, hot area in their life? Where you don't got no substance, where nobody can help you, and you're sitting there saying, I gotta get by myself because I gotta cry myself to sleep. I can't be the only one that ever been there before. Where you feel like nobody, see, let's use the word feel like nobody has been there.
Right. Right.
And you're sitting there wondering, God, what will and can you do?
All right.
My God. And in this middle of nowhere, we find out that he's emotionally spent, physically spent, and mentally spent. And I found out when you are in an emotional roller coaster, the job of the emotional roller coaster is to wear you out.
Right.
The enemy comes to wear out the saints.
Yes, Lord.
Because in well doing, guess what? You get what? Weary at times. And the enemy wants you so weary where you're really, literally willing and ready to throw in the towel.
Yes, Lord.
Where he will separate you from people, separate you from God, separate you from your things, and all you can think about is your feelings. Then we find out in that verse 4. Can you go back to the title, just to the title page, show the title page. That he said this under this broom tree. And mindfully, he is a man of God, a prophet that literally just defeated, less than a couple days ago, 450 prophets. And literally just saw God do the miraculous miracle right in front of him.
All right.
inside, everything was great, and literally within, let's say 2 days, doesn't say amount of days, but the next day when she found out, she said he ran. So I'm going to say about 2 days because this took a day journey. 2 to 3 days, right? He says this, and he prayed, at least he prayed, right? Yeah. But listen what he prayed for. He said that he might die.
My God.
And said, it is enough.
That's right.
Now, Lord, take my life. It lets me know that believers can be bipolar.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Meaning you can be up one day
Yes, sir.
and down the next.
Yes, sir.
Which lets me know if you are too in your feelings, you are going with like the roller coaster up and down.
Right.
All based on what's happening around you.
Jesus.
Listen. Then I find out in his deepest pit of despair, instead of wanting to try again, he said, just let me die. Suicide through prayer.
My God.
Woo. There's many of us sitting in the church today, not just this church, but churches around America.
Well,
On Saturday evening, you probably just prayed, God, let me just die.
oh yeah.
My God.
I'm tired, God.
Yeah.
I'm emotionally spent, God.
Hey.
How are you going to have me way up here and the next day have somebody threaten my life? Knowing she can and will do it.
Preach it.
God, I'm tired of you consistently changing my circumstance. I can't do it no more. And the enemy knows he's wearing you out, even if you're on an emotional high, because that emotional high took a lot out of him. He was there all day watching them do all this cutting. Watched them pray and scream all day, and it probably tired him out. That spirit tried to dwell around him, maybe. Then he got to up and did his thing and said, yes, I did it. I did it. Then he heard the message that he was going to die by the end of the day.
My God.
And he said, God, instead of somebody taking my life, you just take my life.
Right.
I'm tired. And the enemy will continue to beat up against you. Take care of your finances, your family, your friends, your emotions, just to get you to the point where you really are ready to give up. Has anybody been there in the house? Come on, somebody. Where the devil has consistently messed with you to just get you to a point where you're willing and ready to say, God, I throw in the towel. And the problem is so many of us are not real with that emotion and won't allow ourselves to deal with that emotion. We're just tired of feeling it.
Yeah.
And we find ourselves not being consistent in God. One day we're praising, the next day we're crying and complaining. See, emotions will try to get you out of fellowship with God.
That's right.
That's right.
And out of the will of God.
Teach God.
He never even asked God what your will is for this situation. And we're talking about a prophet. So if we're talking about a prophet, I can imagine what's happening in our lives.
Man.
Yes.
Getting to a point where you say, God, I'm not caring what you want to do, God. You need to take me out. I'm not really worried about what you need to do, God. I need you to make me happy. So he went from praying for God to move in his life to asking for death in his life. Then we find out in the following verse, let me get to that all of a sudden he went to sleep. I can imagine, and I'm imagining here, that he probably cried himself to sleep. Has anybody been there where you cried all night by yourself? I'm saying, nobody else heard your cry. Say,
Nobody.
oh, you in the closet.
Oh, yeah.
You in your bathroom. You started to think all the things that's going wrong in your life, and you started to feel depressed, and you started to feel like you were in despair, and you started to say, God, I can't do that. And you started to cry, you cried, and didn't and couldn't and wouldn't go to sleep. Then all of a sudden there was some type of peace on you.
Yes, Lord. Yes.
And it made me imagine Christ in the middle of the storm going to sleep.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
And that's when Christ comes in.
Yes.
That he'll give you peace that surpasses all understanding. Don't give up. And you've been crying all night and you're all in your feelings. And you say, I don't know if God loves me. I don't know if God's right in me. I don't know, but I'm willing to leave God at this point. But I'm here to let you know right now that God said, I love you. I will ride with you and I will never forsake you. Come on, somebody. But the problem is, we don't allow ourselves to get to that peace. And Christ said, when he got up, he's like, why are y'all tripping?
Right.
And it made me realize that Christ can fall asleep in the storm, and if I'm with him, he won't let this boat go on.
Yes. Come on now.
Some of you are so concerned thinking the boat is about to go under. But if Christ is with me, whatever he wants to happen to me has to happen.
Right.
If I have to go in the fire like the Hebrew boys, if he's with me, he will protect me and burn off the things that need to be burned off. Some of you don't understand these emotions are just exposing who you really are. Woo! Woo!
Wow. My God.
God said you've been dealing with the spider webs for too long. And these emotions are pushing out what you really have inside of you. He said you got anger in you. You got depression in you. That's been lingering around since you was a child. And God said, I gotta allow this emotion to get raw. And I gotta allow you to feel this thing. Because I've been giving you medicine too long. I've been drugging your pain too long. I've been numbing it too long. I've been giving you too much to make you feel okay for too long. And God said it's time for you to feel this thing all the way. It's time for you to understand what's really going on. It's time for you to feel the pain. It's time for some change. And change only happens when you feel what's going on. Some of us are walking around drugged, doped up, high, intoxicated. God said, you think that's the Spirit of God. That's just you masking your problems. You come up to the altar crying. You come up praising. God said you're just masking the pain. Joy doesn't always look like you're smiling.
That's right.
Joy isn't always giving people high fives.
Right.
Joy, sometimes you feel like giving up, but you say, I got the joy of the Lord. Joy doesn't always look like you have a big smile on your face. Sometimes joy knows I'm going through it, but I can endure it. Because I believe one of the fruits of the Spirit is long suffering. But the problem is, we live in a country and a society and a time where nobody wants to feel no pain.
Yes, sir.
You get a surgery and say, doctor, I don't want to feel no pain. I have a baby, I don't want to feel no pain.
That's right. Yeah.
But God is trying to say, during or after this surgery, you got to feel some discomfort.
That's right.
Because change only occurs when there is some discomfort.
Yes, sir.
You only understand how fast you should go based off that what? Discomfort.
Right.
If you felt perfect right after the surgery, you will be trying to run a mile. And the doctor said you need to rest. And you don't understand the rest until the pain sets in.
That's right.
All right. So he was able to rest because the pain set in.
Yeah.
The Bible doesn't tell us before he slept or anything. It just tells us he ran.
Yeah.
So it lets me know sometimes you got to feel the pain. Oh, come on, somebody. To feel the time to rest. Oh, my God. See, when God gave him that peace, he woke up. The Bible said, let me tell you what the Bible said he woke up to. He woke up to a divine meal. He slept, it said, and suddenly an angel touched him. And said to him, arise and eat. Then he looked there, and by his head was a cake baked on coals and a jar of water.
Right.
He's in the middle of a desert, but yet there's some water there. He didn't bring no cake, but there's some bread there. He didn't bring no fire, but there's a fire there. He didn't bring any coal, but there's coals there. It lets me know God woke him up and gave him some soul food. Look at your neighbor and say, I just need some soul food. That was an external thing that God gave him. Because our emotions are based on the external. And God said, I can't do nothing about the external right now because you have to go through it. But I can give you some comfort. Some of you don't understand that God said, I can be God in the middle of nowhere. I can provide in the middle of nowhere. I can change things in the middle of nowhere. I can give you peace in the middle of pain. I can give you joy in the middle of anger. I can give you some love in the middle of hate. I'm here to let you know that God said I can do it. No matter where you at, God said I will perform it. Jehovah Jireh. That came out of being in the middle of nowhere with nothing. Some of you think God has to provide all the time. God said I gotta get you out to the middle of nowhere. With nothing. With no one. For me to be the one to provide. The Bible lets me know he didn't look at anyone else. He didn't say, where did it come from? He knew it was an angel of the Lord that woke him up in the middle of rest and said, let me give you some coals and let me cook that cake for you. It reminds me of the disciples when they went out fishing and they looked up to the beach, saw a man out there that kind of looked like Jesus, that kind of seemed like Jesus, kind of walked like Jesus, kind of even talked like Jesus. He got to a point when they got close and they saw fish being cooked. I found out Jesus likes to serve us. When you're hungry and you feel like you don't have it, you don't even feel like cooking, you don't feel like doing anything. Christ said, I will serve it up for you.
Yes.
I wish I had a saint to give y'all some praise right now. So he went from bipolar, from being alone, to literally find peace. Then we find out, let me go back to the scripture, I'm a textual type of person. It tells us, and the angel of the Lord came back the second time. And touched him and said, arise and eat. Because the journey is too great for you. So not only that the angel of the Lord fed him once, it allowed him to go back to sleep and feed him again. I started to think, in our sleeping hours, God is performing a work.
That's right.
When Adam fell asleep, God performed.
Yes, he did.
The problem is you're too busy up thinking about it, and God said, take your butt to sleep. Santa can't come until you go to sleep. Me and my little sister used to try to stay up all night, but we find out if we go to sleep, it comes quickly.
That's right.
So you over here worried about it all night, and God said, if you just go to sleep, I can take care of it. I just don't want you to see how I'm doing it. It doesn't matter where or when I do it, I just need you to go to sleep. Look at your neighbor and say, go night night. You might need to go to sleep. Grab your pillow. Count some sheep. Ask the Sandman to come. Because when you go to sleep, you'll wake up to... So many of you are up waiting and hoping God to do it. And God says, I want to do it, but I need you to go to sleep. I find out that the Lord told him, what you're about to do is too much. But I found out I can do all things through Christ.
That's right.
What strengthens me. And the problem is, so many of us been trying to do things all on our own because we're in a high point, high emotions. I can do it, God. I can do it, God. And we get drained out and realize we can't do nothing.
That's right.
And God is trying to say that your nervous breakdown is actually just a pit stop for rest and relaxation.
Wow.
There's many of us are getting close to a nervous breakdown, and God said the only reason you're getting here because I'm trying to force you to rest and relax and let me take care of some things. Because what you're about to go and do next, you don't got it in you to do it. God knew he was about to travel 40 days and 40 nights with no food. Travel well over 200 miles on foot. trying to hide to make sure he wasn't killed. And God said, you know what I need you to do is be quiet and just eat this, then I can take care of you.
Right.
God is trying to take us to a higher place, but we're too busy not allowing him being God.
Right.
We're too busy concerned about our emotions. We're too busy in our feelings. We're too busy ready to give up. We're too busy asking God to provide our will instead of giving us what we need.
Right.
His want was death. His need was food. Matter of fact, he never even saw death.
All right now, talk about it.
He got caught up in a fight. Being followed by the men that he met literally after this chapter. So some of you want one thing, and God said, I got something much greater than what you're asking for.
Yes.
Imagine greater. And some of us are asking God for something that will end it, and God said, I'm just beginning something. I'm just starting something new in your life. But I can't do the new until you realize the old has passed away. You may want to die physically, but God said, I'm killing off that old feeling and giving you a new feeling.
Amen.
And I'm not talking about feeling like F-E-E. I'm talking about being filled. And some of us got to understand you got filled once with the Holy Spirit.
Right.
But God is saying it's time to be refilled. It's an everlasting feeling, because I found out when you drive a car, sooner or later you get on E. And when you're on E, you can't just keep going. Because guess what happens to the car? It puts out and stops. And I found out what you need is some more gas. And God said, you've been rolling on this first feeling for too long. And it's time for me to refill you.
Right.
Amen. Mighty.
And in my closing, we find out that he went to the Mount Sinai, mountain of God,
Yes.
and came face to face.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes.
And around, I believe, like 11 or 12 verse, he started to even complain again. So God, I've been zealous. I've been doing all this for you. And instead of God answering that, he told him to go do something.
Right.
Go anoint some people king and go find Elijah.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. When you feel like giving up, God said, I'm about to give you some more work to do.
Amen.
When you feel like you're useless, God said, I got to give you some more work to do. Elijah felt old and tired, but God said, no, I got some more work for you to do. God, I'm tired, but no. Let me give you some strength. I got some more work for you to do. God, I feel alone, but God said, there's 7,000 other prophets just like you. God is saying, you ain't the only one going through.
Right.
You ain't the only one feeling that pain. You ain't the only one crying yourself to sleep. The only problem is Christians ain't telling each other what they going through. Sometimes you gotta find somebody that's really good and saved that won't tell all your business to vent and pray with. The problem is we vent to the wrong people and they tell people our business, and then we give up and give out and say, God, it's enough. But God is saying, find a prayer partner and get underneath that broom tree, underneath my mercy and joy, and underneath that long suffering that you're going through. God said, I need you to get on your knees with your prayer partner and pray this thing. Because there's 7,000 more people just like you. In your case, I don't know how many more. But there's enough people in this church that there's somebody that's going through or going through what you're going through. The problem is we think we're all alone in this thing. Your emotions got you mixed up, messed up, and caught up. I'm here to let you know it's time for you to realize you ain't the only one, boo-boo. And then my final conclusion. It's time for you to get out of your feelings. Look at your neighbor and say, get out of your feelings. Get out of that discussion. Get out of that depression. Get out of that anger. Get out of it. Get out of it. Get out of it. You're tied up and messed up. You can't move if you're in something. You can't give God praise when you're in something. You can't watch God really move in your life if you're in something. It's time for you to get out what you're in and get into God. Somebody to catch that. You're too busy in your problems. You're too busy in your emotions, telling everybody what's going wrong. You're too busy talking. God said stop talking to people and start talking to me.
Yes.
feelings. Change that up and say hashtag get out of my feelings and get into God. Get out your own way and stop leaning on your own understanding, your own emotions, your own problems, and start leaning on God. Because He will direct your path. Amen. Give God a hand clap praise. Quickly, you need prayer.